If you're looking for the soul of soccer, you could do worse than an English pub.
It's an incredible privilege to think that this is where football began. This is where football started in the 19th century, and it's one of our best exports to have spread around the world. And I always say to people who don't love football, is there anything in your life that makes you jump up and scream for joy, and then have another 40,000 people doing it there with you? And it's an incredible feeling.
For nearly a century, Wembley in its different incarnations has been the spiritual and literal home of English soccer. This is where, in 1966, England won its only World Cup title. It was in this country in the 19th century that the game of soccer was created. And these days, the most vehement critics of FIFA and its president, Sepp Blatter, are here in England.
The British media and FIFA, I would say now, we may call it, a very interesting relationship.
In 2010, England was one of 4 finalists for the hosting rights to the 2018 World Cup. The day before the winner would be announced, Prime Minister David Cameron led a virtual pep rally in the House of Commons.
We have got the stadia, we've got the facilities, we have the transport networks, we have the enthusiasm in our country for football, and we can put on an absolutely first-class World Cup.
The following day, December 2nd, 2010, the English learned their fate.
2018 FIFA World Cup, ladies and gentlemen, will be organized in Russia.
Despite the entreaties of David Beckham and Prince William, England mustered just 2 votes.
I think they was probably surprised at the scale of the defeat, but not surprised that we lost.
Damian Collins is a member of Parliament.
But what's been more shocking is a rotten culture that pervaded that bidding process, the culture of the executive committee and some of the people on it, whereby they expect favours and rewards for their support. And that is the way that they do business.
Some things which were put to me personally, sometimes in the presence of others, which in my view did not represent proper and ethical behaviour.
Lord David Treisman, the chairman of England's bid, testified before a parliamentary committee in May 2011. He said that 4 FIFA executive committee members had offered their votes in exchange for cash and favors. One wanted $4 million for an education center.
Then said that the funds could be channeled through him and he would guarantee that they were appropriately spent.
Another EXCO member wanted to be called Sir.
He believed that a knighthood from the United Kingdom would be appropriate. And it was put to me that as a former Foreign Office Minister, I must know how these things are organised and could probably achieve it if we had a mind to do so.
What we're talking about is people allegedly soliciting bribes. And that is an offence, and it's an offence around the world. And if you did that in business, then you could expect to be prosecuted for it.
But it wasn't just the 2018 bid that seems to have been corrupted. Just a few minutes after England's loss, there was this announcement.
The winner to organize the 2022 FIFA World Cup is Qatar.
How did Qatar get the 2022 World Cup?
Money. They bought it. I think that's how they got the World Cup. I mean, there's no other conclusion you could draw.
That was also the conclusion of the British newspaper, the Sunday Times. In 2010, 2 Times reporters went undercover, posing as lobbyists for the U.S. team bidding for the 2022 World Cup.
We went around meeting lots of different FIFA consultants and voters and secretly taped them.
One of the things I want to know from us is, will it help you make your decision in favour of America in some way?
Obviously, it may have an effect. Of course, it may have an effect. Yeah. It may have an effect.
What were you told about how much it would cost to buy the World Cup?
For an individual voter, we were told anything from about 250,000 to about 1.5 million.
It can be paid in cash, otherwise it can be transferred. said, I didn't know whether it would have to go via the Nigerian Football Confederation, or it's better to go to you directly.
Directly.
Heidi Blake and Jonathan Calvert have recently published The Ugly Game, the Qatari plot to buy the World Cup, based on their reporting for The Times. They combed through millions of emails, faxes, and bank transfer slips leaked by a whistleblower from inside FIFA. What does your evidence show?
Mohammed bin Hammam, who was Qatar's most senior football official at the time, waged a campaign over the 2 years in the lead up to the vote in which he bribed dozens of football officials all around the world in exchange for backing Qatar's World Cup bid.
The Times reporters claimed that bin Hammam spent $5 million buying support for Qatar's bid.
One of the things he was very keen to do was create this big groundswell of support in Africa, and to do that he would bring all the presidents of all the African associations to Doha, where they would be wined and dined, put up in the best hotels, given cash spending money. Afterwards, they would write back to him saying that they'll support his country's bid for the World Cup, and then ask him for money.
This is the same Mohammed bin Hammam who'd been accused of buying the votes that made Blatter FIFA's president in the first place. The Qatari billionaire and friend of the royal family had risen to become nearly as powerful inside FIFA as Blatter himself.
Bin Hammam helped Blatter get elected in 1998 and in 2002. And Bin Hammam was on a promise that Blatter would step down and that he would replace him. Blatter went back on that promise, twice in fact.
In 2011, bin Hammam announced he would run against Blatter for FIFA president. But according to Blake and Calvert, just days before the election, bin Hammam was called to FIFA headquarters in Zurich. When he walked into the president's office, he was surprised to find not only Blatter waiting for him, but also a member of Qatar's royal family.
Blatter did a deal with Qatar. The deal was that if Mohammed stood aside and didn't stand against Blatter for the presidency, then Blatter would do his utmost to make sure that the Qatar 2022 bid was untouched.
That night, bin Hammam withdrew his candidacy. FIFA denies that any deal was struck with the Qatari royal family or that any meeting took place on the eve of the 2011 election, which Blatter would win unopposed.
There is not one single doubt that the World Cup 2022 will be organized in Qatar. Decision taken by the Executive Committee on the 2nd of December 2010 and not reversible.
FIFA denies there was any deal between Blatter and the Qatari royal family.
Through the histories, the dictators, when they think that this or that person is a prominent one, to replace him, first thing they do, they execute him.
Blatter has cut off people who've helped him.
Yes.
That's what he does.
Yes. Yes. That's no problem for him. You know. Mr. bin Hammam was cut off, for example. Yeah.
Loyalty doesn't mean much.
No. Loyalty is rather a one-way street for him.
Blatter promised the 2011 election would be his last. Is he a man who keeps his word?
No.
And so, before the World Cup last summer,
My mission is not finished. Congress, my mission is not finished. I am ready to accompany you in the future for the game for the world. But it's your decision, Congress, if you want to go with me. For the game for the world, thank you so much.
This time, though, Blatter is not running unopposed. And the voices calling for change are louder than ever.